second attempt to help you out with your scooter. We've basically got a problem that we've got no spark. Now, to most people, all the components here would be a mystery, and they would put their bike in the bike shop, but it's extremely simple. Firstly, you lift your seat up. They're 4 10mm bolts, and you undo them, and you can lift the seat bucket out in its entirety. Then, as you look down to the front of the engine, on the right hand side, you'll find this poking into the side of the engine. That's a suppressor cap for the spark plug, and all that does is make sure that the power gets from the lead to the plug. Here's one with a plug in it, so there's a rubber bung there. You pull that off, then you get the right size ratchet. This is the one for this, undoes anti-clockwise. You may find on the GY6 it's very tight, so once you've loosened it, you just press that and take it off and undo it with your hand. It is important to use a good socket if you've got one with a rubber insert. This stops the plugs falling out. It holds onto the plug, so especially getting the plugs in and out of the GY6 head can be not difficult, but you've got to do it with care. So we've now got the plug out, and we know that we've got no spark. So the first thing to do is you clean this with a wire brush. And I'll come around there and show you. There's a gap here, hopefully. You can see there's a tiny gap there. In fact, I'll open it up just to show you. I'll just open that more, that one. So I've opened that excessively wide. You can see like a pinpoint needle. That's the contact from the centre, and this is the earth, which earths against the engine, and the spark jumps the gap. When you've cleaned it with a wire brush, just get your emery cloth and clean it like that, so that you're cleaning that side of the contact, then clean it like that, so you're cleaning, in this instance, the top head of what looks like a pin. Now, we take it as read that the plug is clean, so we put it back in, the condenser cap, put this on the metal of the head of the bike with the ignition on, crank it over and watch to see if you see a spark. Now, if you haven't seen a spark, the answer is firstly to renew it with a new plug. We have one here which I'm going to use later. So you put the new plug in there, put that on the head, crank it, make sure that this part of the plug is touching metal. Sometimes it can be difficult, so you can use, I use sometimes like a jump lead or something like that, just to clip on and clip it to earth to make sure I've got a positive earth and there's no problem there. So we've done that. If there's still no spark, we can do things like this. You can buy a kit with a coil very cheaply. There are two sorts of coils. This one bolts on with one single wire, and this type's held on with one screw. We'll work on the one screw one as it's most common. So if you've got a kit, you can take this off, this unscrews, and put a new one of these on. Just incidentally, as a matter of course, on our own scooters we replace these with Bosch or NGK caps which seem to hold the plug better and don't come off. A common problem with these caps, especially the ones you get with your bike, is this rubber here, because when that's pressed in and on the plug, this rubber is meant to seal in the engine casings around to stop it vibrating. But what happens, a lot of the Chinese ones, the rubber's bigger than it should be, so when you push it on tight, it clicks on, and when you start your bike and it's running, there's slight vibrations, it pushes that away from here, the contact it needs to be, and you can get not very good starting, you know, misfiring sometimes, and sometimes they can come right out and you've lost your ignition system altogether. So we've taken the suppressor cap off. As I say, I normally renew those anyway, even on a new bike or whatever, for peace of mind. This is just basically high tension lead which unscrews. So if you buy some high tension lead the same length, you can screw it in and test that. Having done all that, having renewed the cap, the high tension lead, screwed that in, still there's no spark. The next element to replace is this. Now they come on the internet very cheaply. There's one there that I've just bought to use today. So you undo the single screw, take the wires off carefully, one's green, one's black, with the ignition off so that you're getting no power anywhere anyway. Then you screw your new unit on, put the wires back on and do the same test again. Put the plug in the end of the suppressor cap, ignition on, plug earthed and just see for a spark. It should only take a couple of seconds, so you don't have to turn it over and over and over. There should be a spark straight away. So we've renewed the plug, we've renewed the HT cap, the lead, the coil. So that is one major element eliminated. Now if you still haven't got a spark, the next thing you're looking for is your CDI unit. Here's one of the most common ones, and you can see it's quite small and petite. Basically two plugs, plug in there from the wiring loom, you just unplug them, take them out and then put another unit on. You then do the same test and hopefully you've got a spark. It has to be said though that although these Chinese components are cheap, it's not uncommon to get new Chinese components sent to you that don't work. So when I'm working on a bike specifically, I have two suppliers. So I would order one of these and the coil and everything from one supplier, and I'd order exactly the same order from another internet supplier. Then you can cross-check and test, and that should solve the problem. Just out of interest, when you're looking to find this CDI unit, which is situated on the right hand side on the metal frame, and it's held on by a simple rubber, that rubber normally clips onto the frame and that goes inside. So they just pop out, normally the rubber comes off with it. So they pop out, you unclip them and do an exchange unit. Then you do exactly the same retest and you should have a very, very good spark. If it isn't that, and you know that the components are working, you would then have to go on to things like the charging system. But we're taking it as read that your scooter, when working before, the charging system was working, and the easy test of that is when your lights are on and it's on tick over, if you rev the engine when it's on the stand so that the revs pick up high, the lights will get brighter, showing that you're getting a charge. So this should have cured your problem. The only other thing worthy of mention, when you're looking for this component on the side of the frame, quite often you'll come across this component, which isn't similar, but it's quite close to it. And this is a solenoid for the starter. Now when you press your electric start button, this sends a current to here, which basically is just a switch and sends current to the starter motor to start. And when you take your finger off the button, obviously it stops and breaks the circuit. So that is another component. Apart from that, there's not an awful lot around that area for you to worry about at all. And doing these simple jobs yourself will save you hundreds of pounds. In my first video I went on and stripped this carburetor of 50cc one to show you that. Later on I'm going to do this off the 125s. It is important to have a good source of power. As I'm doing a bike today for a friend, we've ordered a new battery. Before you do all this electrical testing, however, it is definitely worthwhile making sure your battery is fully charged. That can be a common source of a problem if it's not charged, because the bike needs to spin over quite speedily to get a good spark. Here's just a picture of the another coil here. This is the bolt-on type, which only has one wire to there, then the HT lead comes out of there. I'll show you that one. That just goes in there, and then same setup. And the other factor is this is another CDI, a different type of CDI unit. There are several, but these small ones here are the most common. So if you've got any numbers on them or names, like this has got the name and a number, it's very important to get exactly the same or an original engineering manufacturing part, which means it's to the same standard. You can, if you put the wrong coil on, blow the fuse. So what you do is, if they've sent not the wrong coil, the wrong CDI unit, if they've sent you the CDI unit in good faith, you have your ignition off and you plug it in. Where your battery is, you've got a big main fuse. So your first test before you do anything is you turn the ignition switch on and then you check the fuse. Well, you don't have to check the fuse because your petrol gauges and dials will be working anyway. But if they're suddenly not, take that CDI unit off because it's wrong. It's either faulty inside, which has caused a short, or they've sent you an incompatible unit. But these are the most common two. This is mainly used on direct bikes. This is used on most other GY6 Chinese scooters. And you've saved yourself by doing this hundreds of pounds. And all you've needed, a wire brush, a bit of emery cloth, a couple of wrenches, and a screwdriver set and a couple of ratchets. The battery's up to you. If you do replace the battery, make sure keep the receipt. And what I do is I put a label on here, the date that I've put it on. In case it fails, then you can send it back because you normally get at least a year's warranty. Once again, I've enjoyed making this video for you, and it's my intention to go through all elements of the scooter, so that people that are just starting out don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of pounds in motorbike shops and main dealers getting things done. When you're buying a plug, I buy NGK or similar, a very good brand name. Although they're slightly more expensive, they tend not to let you down. And the whole purpose of this is that you get more enjoyment out of your bike, because there's nothing worse than think, oh, I've got to go 10 or 20 miles, my bike's not running well, it's misfiring, etc. So gradually, over the next few months when I get time, I'm going to try and go through everything as much as I can, you know, and later on I might go through a complete rebuild of an engine for you, etc. But if you've enjoyed the video, it is important for me if you wouldn't mind ticking like and subscribe, because this will encourage me to make more videos for you, and hopefully you're getting something out of it because you're saving hundreds of pounds. And once you've started working on your own bike, you seem to get a greater sense of enjoyment because you feel more part of it. All of a sudden it's no longer a mystery. Whereas if, you know, you're at college or school or whatever, and you go, oh, my scooter won't start, people tend to, oh, if that's an electrical problem it could cost you thousands. These are simple steps to save you money and time and bills, and you can do it at home at your leisure. But fundamentally, all the wiring system on these modern scooters is quite good. It's not to say that they don't break, because things do break, but it shouldn't be a mystery to you. And when you've taken these steps, hopefully your scooter will be sorted and you get hours of enjoyment. I've enjoyed making a video. Once again, please tick like and subscribe, or tick don't like if you don't like it, but hopefully you do. And you can see from here that the stuff I've got here is very, very simple. These are just ones that have come off bikes already tested, and I keep those for testing because, funnily enough, sometimes this coil might work, might not work on one make of scooter, and for no apparent reason it will on another. So if I use that as a test unit, I would know that the coil was broken or not functioning properly. So I wouldn't use it. I would only use this to test, and I'd replace it with a new one. Once again, thank you very much for watching the video. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have hours and hours and hours of pleasure with your bike. Now it's working properly. Thank you.